Coming up on the Final Play. After a magical season, a new season is underway. 2010 training camp has officially kicked off.
We're looking at this season as that we're hungry and we need to go out and win a championship like we never won one.
Winning one is special, but repeating would be historic.
It's time, and this is our window of opportunity.
And this is our opportunity to break down the first weekend of training camp on the Final Play.
From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Final Play with Rob S. Brought to you by Firestone Complete Auto Care.
History is not on the Saints' side to defend their Super Bowl title, but don't tell them that. Welcome to the Final Play. The 2004 Patriots were the last team to repeat. Only 8 teams have done it. The Saints believe they can be next. The road to repeat is underway for the defending champs.
More than anything else, I'm just looking to see how we handle success.
And that's the million-dollar question. After achieving this, the Saints celebrated like this.
Move over, Peyton. There's a new favorite son in town.
Yay! It was an off-season party for the ages, one that officially ended with the start of 2010 training camp.
The process has to begin again, and it doesn't pick up again where you left off.
We're approaching it like we haven't won a championship. That's how we're approaching it. We got to win the championship. We got to get to the Super Bowl. That's how we're approaching it. We're not thinking about the past. What happened in the past was in the past. We're looking at this season as that we're hungry and we need to go out and win a championship like we never won one.
You'd be naive to think that you can just show up and that everybody's going to be intimidated because you're the defending world champs, or from anything that you had accomplished the year before. If anything, you realize you have to work that much harder.
The Super Bowl MVP says even he can improve. He wants his teammates to focus on the little things that make up a championship team, especially with an opportunity to repeat.
It's time, and this is our window of opportunity. And I'd be very disappointed if we didn't take advantage of it, because you just never know when opportunities will ever come like this again.
Reggie Bush knows what it's like to repeat. In fact, he almost three-peated at USC, but his relationship with USC is now almost non-existent, considering he was the center of the Trojans' NCAA scandal, which resulted in severe NCAA sanctions.
At the end of the day, it is what it is, and all I can do now is focus on the New Orleans Saints and really just try to move on. The whole situation is terrible, and nobody feels worse about it than I do.
USC faces a 2-year bowl ban, had to vacate wins, and will lose scholarships, all creating a tarnished relationship between USC and its former Heisman Trophy winner.
I hope someday, at some point, it can be repaired, and we'll see what happens. That's all I can do.
Reggie says right now, he's right where he wants to be, in front of the Houdat Nation. Unlike the previous 2 years, Reggie says he enters the 2010 season healthy.
It feels great just to not have to go through any rehab or surgeries or anything like that. And like you said, last year, majority of the season I was recovering and I was slowly but surely, getting back into football and obviously didn't want to overdo it too much too early. And I think once you saw a healthy me, you saw me being more explosive, back to myself, and I think that was kind of evident in the postseason.
Reggie knows what it's like to repeat. He was part of USC's AP National Championship team in 2003, BCS National Championship team in 2004, and runner-up National Championship team in 2005 when USC lost to Texas.
He's going for the corner. He's got it.
Reggie hopes his experience with success in the past will pay off now, but he knows repeating won't be easy.
It's tough. This is one of the toughest things that we're going to have to face. This season is going to be even tougher than any season we face, since I've been here. Everybody's going to be looking to knock us off. Everybody wants a piece of the Super Bowl defending champs, and so we're going to have a target on our backs, and we're going to have to play. Every game is going to almost be like a Super Bowl game, because everybody's going to, we're going to get everybody's A game.
Jonathan Vilma didn't repeat at Miami, but he came close, losing to Ohio State in overtime during the 2003 BCS National Championship game. While Drew Brees is the quarterback of the offense, Vilma is the quarterback of the defense. Just ask Greg Williams.
Jonathan Vilma is smart, fast, tough, and also can play as long as you want to play. That's what makes him special.
Anyone can tell you these attributes about Jonathan Vilma, but Greg Williams says there's one thing in common between Vilma and Drew Brees that makes them a cut above the rest.
He's there every day to compete. I have no idea what the side bets that go on between Drew Brees and John Vilma in practice every day.
You gotta love a competitive quarterback and competitive linebacker going at it.
Vilma's such a smart football player, and he's such a physical, tough football player. I feel like if I can outsmart him, then I've done something, because the guy doesn't miss much.
As field generals of their respective units, Vilma and Brees led the Saints to the pinnacle of success. And it all started on day one.
Me and Brees, we've been going at it probably since I got here.
Vilma knows it's a battle every Sunday, but he says the defending champs won't lose the battle against complacency.
It's up to the core guys, it's up to us to keep pushing, strive for more, strive for better. But we can't afford it on ourselves, and then we have to apply that pressure to everyone else.
It's not Vilma's first attempt at a repeat. In 2002, Vilma's Miami Hurricanes defeated Nebraska for the BCS National Championship, then headed into the offseason preparing to defend their title.
Best thing we did was when we got into our off-season workouts, we had our strength coach, really just calm us down and tell us where we're at.
But the Canes lost to Ohio State in the 2003 championship game, a Buckeye team that featured Vilma's current teammate, Will Smith.
We should have won it, but, hey, we got a terrible ref. What can we do?
Vilma was asked if he ever thought about stealing Smith's national championship ring.
If I steal it, I'm going to burn it. So.
Vilma and Smith now have the same ring, a Super Bowl ring. A big reason why? Greg Williams. Sean Fazan talked to the Saints defensive mastermind.
39 turnovers, 35 sacks, and loads of swagger. It's safe to say defensive coordinator Greg Williams made his mark on the Saints defense in 2009. But now he's back for year number 2, hoping to build on last year's success, even though the path to get there may not be exactly the same.
This year, we're adapting a little bit more. There's a chameleon part of the defense every year, and basically, when it comes down to it, it can't be this simple. It's what fits the players, not what I like to do.
But one thing that will never change is Williams' desire for smart, versatile athletes.
When you can play more than one position, it helps us fight through injuries of a season, injuries of a game, and injuries of a championship game. And it's paid its dividends throughout the years.
But he knows he's a much better coach when his star players are healthy, like Darren Sharper, who flourished with 9 interceptions in his first season with Williams.
I've been comfortable with Darren since he's come in the door, and I wish I would have had an opportunity to coach him his whole career. And I think he probably wishes he would have been in this flexible of a system. We invented a couple things last year that I had never done in 30 years of coaching.
Sharper's skills have not been on display so far in training camp because of injury. Williams is taking it slow, but still would like to see Sharper hit the practice field in the near future.
It's also foolish if any of you all, or me or him, to think that you can walk in and play full speed without practice. The only guy that can do that's Brett Favre.
Always good to hear Greg Williams' soundbite. The good news is that he is back for year number 2. The bad news, if the Saints defense can do a repeat of last year, you may start hearing Williams' name more and more for head coaching opportunities.
And Jonathan Vilma says Greg Williams is really a master motivator.
Oh, he really is. He puts the heat on those players from the beginning of practice to the end of practice. But more than anything else, Williams walks with a confidence, a swagger, and it really resonates with that defense.
He certainly has that bravado. Sean, thanks for your time. Still to come on The Final Play, ESPN.com NFC South blogger Pat Yasinskis will join us to break down his Camp Confidential report on the defending champs. Insight from an NFC South expert coming up.
You're watching The Final Play from Fox 8 Sports.
The defending champs had a special visitor at training camp this weekend. The Saints hosted Monday Night Football analyst John Gruden.
The only reason I come here is I want to try to learn and get better. And from a system standpoint on offense, I understand a lot of the things that they're doing, and I like to see these guys in action. But I would just tell him the same things that I told you. You know, you're the expert on repeating because you know how to win it. You know how to get there and win it. No one's gutsier than this guy. I mean, he's 4th and 1, I'll go for it. I'll onside kick to start the second half. You know, he's got the guts to pull it off, there's no question.
John Gruden talking about his good friend Sean Payton. Welcome back to The Final Play. Joined now by ESPN.com NFC South blogger Pat Yasinskis, who just wrote his camp confidential on the Saints. Pat, you'd covered the Saints last year during their Super Bowl run. You're certainly familiar with this team. One weekend into training camp, does this club have the same swagger as we saw a year ago?
Yeah, Rob, actually, I think the Saints do have a lot of swagger. The thing I've noticed out at camp the first couple days, the defense is still going after loose balls well after the whistle, just like they did last year when Greg Williams was trying to install that aggressive attitude with the defense. The offense already had a swagger. That's not going anywhere as long as Drew Brees is around. There's a definite confidence about the Saints.
Now, one coach who oozes confidence and swagger is defensive coordinator Greg Williams, never short on words. After practice Friday, Williams said he's tired of critics saying the Saints can't repeat. How hard will it be for this club to defend its title?
Well, I think Greg had a great point. He is getting a little tired, as are many of the Saints, of hearing us in the media continuously write and talk about how hard it is for Super Bowl champions and even Super Bowl losers the following year. Recent history over the last decade, not too many Super Bowl teams have had much success the following year. The Patriots are the one exception. You go back to the Broncos, and that was a long time ago. There's been a bunch of teams that haven't even made the playoffs, but the Saints are in a different situation. They haven't had a lot of turnover. Their team has been pretty much intact. They didn't lose too much to free agency. They didn't lose assistant coaches to other head coaching jobs elsewhere. And I think that helps with continuity, and I think that gives them a much better chance of repeating or at least going deep into the playoffs than a lot of recent Super Bowl champions.
We know the offense will be lights out again. The biggest question, at least to me, is the consistency of the defense. Hard to believe they'll force 39 turnovers again. Did the defense do enough in the offseason to improve?
I think they did. I mean, they were a very opportunistic defense last year. They weren't dominant by any means, but I think they could be more consistent, more dominant this year. They let Charles Grant go. Scott Fujita moved on in free agency. But Charles Grant, I think they've upgraded over him at defensive end with Alex Brown and Jimmy Wilkerson, two very dependable veterans. You know what you're getting with them. The linebacker situation in Fujita's place, they're looking at some young guys, but they've got some young talent there, and they're hoping one of those guys rises up.
All right, let's move to the secondary. Darren Sharper opened camp on the PUP list, coming off microfracture knee surgery in the offseason. Malcolm Jenkins has been working with the first team. Now, you wrote in your Saints Camp Confidential that you wouldn't be surprised if Jenkins beat out Sharper for the starting job.
Wouldn't be surprised, and I know that may sound surprising to a lot of Saints fans. Yeah, I mean, Darren Sharper is a very popular player, and he did great things for this team last year. But he's 34 years old. He had microfracture knee surgery, and he's a safety who depends on his legs. I don't know that he's going to be ready for the start of the season. Malcolm Jenkins is a young guy. He has very fresh legs and a lot of talent, and I think that if he shows he's ready and Sharper's not at 100%, you could see Malcolm Jenkins open the season, maybe even rest Sharper for a while and bring him along for the second half of the season or something like that.
Offensively, we know this team will be explosive, and it all starts with Drew Brees, who has 2 years remaining on his deal. Now, on Thursday, GM Mickey Loomis said there's been no talks of an extension. Why is that? Why wouldn't they want to lock him up right now?
Well, they would love to, and I think in a normal situation that probably would have happened back in March or April or May. But the NFL is in a very weird situation, a very weird time period right now, because there is no collective bargaining agreement. As of right now, there's a potential for a lockout in the 2011 season. So no team, or not many teams out there are doing long-term deals because of the uncertainty. And I think the Saints are involved in that. They're being cautious. It's probably the smart business move.
So the offensive line is not just protecting Breeze, they're protecting the franchise. Drew rarely gets sacked. Can the O-line live up to last year's standards?
Absolutely. That is a very, very talented offensive line. And I don't think people outside of New Orleans really recognize how good that offensive line is. Jari Evans is right now, and I'll say it, the best guard in the NFL. Steve Hutchinson held that title for a while, but Steve's getting up there in age. Jari has replaced him, and Carl Nix is a very good guard. Those two guys are the best guards in the NFL. John Stinchcomb was a Pro Bowler last year. Jonathan Goodwin is an excellent center. The left tackle position, Jermon Bushrod did a decent job last year. They drafted Charles Brown. Zach Strief is also a possibility to see some playing time there. So this is a very good offensive line. And the thing with Evans and Nix is they're young. They're only going to get better. So this offensive line is going to be very good for a very long time.
In the backfield, the hot topic has been Pierre Thomas's contract status. He wants a long-term deal, signed his tender in June. GM Mickey Loomis says talks have been, quote, cordial. When do you think a deal gets done, and how much should Thomas get paid?
Well, I think Pierre might have to wait until after this season. I think he might have to go out and prove it all over again. He had a nice season last year, but again, with the labor uncertainty, teams are hesitant to really spend too much or make commitments because they're not sure what's going to happen. And Pierre's already signed the tender. The Saints kind of hold the upper hand there, and I think he's probably going to play this year for that tender, and he can let his play do the talking. And if he goes out and plays very well, he can certainly earn himself a huge contract after this season.
While Pierre is set to make $1.7 million, his backfield mate Reggie Bush is due $8 million. Nothing dull about Reggie's offseason, from celebrating a Super Bowl title to being the face of USC's scandal, which resulted in NCAA sanctions. How does he put all that on the back burner and just focus on football?
Well, Reggie talked about that the other day, and he said basically when he steps on the football field, that is his sanctuary, and I think that's true. He's an athlete, first of all, and when he's out there, that's what he's happiest doing. And I think now that training camp has started, he's got a little peace of mind. Yeah, he's not happy about what went on with USC. It's probably going to stay in the back of his mind, but right now he's got bigger things to focus on, and I think the start of training camp was a very good thing for him.
Pat, thanks for your time. Thanks for your insight. We'd love to have you back soon.
Thank you very much, Rob.
Still to come on the final play, he had to watch his teammates win the Super Bowl in his hometown. Heath Evans updates his health during a one-on-one with John Henry Smith. You're watching the final play on the home of the Saints.
The final play from Fox 8 Sports.
He didn't win a Super Bowl with the Patriots, but he did with the Saints, although Heath Evans had to watch his teammates win a championship in his hometown while he was dealing with a knee injury. John Henry Smith gets a health update from Heath, who is more than ready to defend a title.
You're looking good. I know that you had knee surgery, and it looks like you look spry out there.
Well, good. Hopefully I can look that way in about 2 weeks, and then in about 2 months, and hopefully into another championship run.
Do people underestimate how difficult a rehab like what you went through is? Because we see it in the sports pages. Oh yeah, he hurt his knee, and of course he'll be back next year. But it's not that easy, is it?
It's really not. And they're so aggressive these days on the rehab programs. I mean, literally the day after surgery, they're in there bending and cranking on that knee. So anyone that's ever been through it knows it's not easy. I'm sure people can take it for granted what we have to go through to get back out on the field, though.
Is it still a little bit jarring to be out here after that summer of parties and fundraisers and all that?
No parties for me. I was locked up in that training room getting his knee right. But, it's one of those memories that you never let go. And you really want to thrive on that. You want to remember what that tastes like. But at the end of the day, you've got to kind of set it to the side. You've got to put the ring in the jewelry box and kind of be done with that year. But remember what it took to get you there and know that it's going to be that much tougher to get back.
Well, we were all on the sidelines asking each other, hey, what do you think? What's the intensity level? How does it compare to last year, the year before last? Now, we're on the sidelines. What do we know? You're out there in it. What do you think?
You know what? Today was a great tempo for the first day. You never know. Every time you put those pads back on, you're running around with an extra 5 pounds of weight. But I think today was a good practice one, and they're about getting better from here on out.
Well, you know, what I noticed Patrick Robinson, the first-round draft pick. I saw he had Usama Young's pads in one hand, and he had Jabari Greer's in another. Now, you know, we had the whole thing with Des Bryant with the Cowboys. Where do you come down on that whole rookie carrying pads thing?
There's a pecking order. You know, I mean, 10 years ago, I was doing it for Max Strong and Ricky Waters, and you know what? The veterans here do it with class, but, you know, show some respect. We don't ask much. Buy some meals. Do some stuff. Listen, the guy's not hurting for money now, so he can do a little bit for us.
Yeah, I heard he's moved up in tax brackets, almost as high as you.
Yeah, no, he's high. Well, I'm at the highest, he's at the highest, so we're all screwed.
Well, there you go. Heath Evans, thank you so much for your time.
John Henry, thanks. We'll wrap up the final play with a look at Monday's practice schedule coming up.
This is the last word on sports. 4th Down on 4 starts now.
Welcome into the show. Training Camp 2010, a perfect combination of the two best conversation starters in South Louisiana, the Heat and the Saints. And no one gives that duo better poetic justice than Jim Henderson. As the bard of the broadcast booth explains, Hoodats can finally approach the start of a season with their toes rather than their heads buried in the sand.
Living on away takes, watching the sun bake. All of those Hoodats tired of oil. Feeling my sweat pool, no place to get cool. The smell of bald heads, they're beginning to boil. Melting away again in Tom Bensonville, searching for my lost tablets of salt. Some people say that there's a game to be played, but right now, I could sure use a malt. In 2006, Peyton weather in Jackson meant never having a practice rained out. Is it any coincidence in 2010, as he tries to set the tone to defend a Super Bowl championship, the training camp opens to the hottest weekend of the summer? After an hour in the unrelenting morning sun, that's not a helmet on your head, that's a crock pot. But they also suffer who only sit and wait.
As hot as it is for us, it's pretty hot to sit in those bleachers for 2 hours, and but it's good to see them. You know, you pull in this morning and you see a line of people that are here before you are. It's pretty impressive.
For those fans, the sun delivers a remember me shot. As Cosmo Kramer once said, while sitting in one, it feels like a sauna in here. But at least in a sauna, you can sit around wearing just a towel. Try that here, and you watch the game with Newell Norman. On the sideline, you hear a lot of reporters asking, what's your number? They're not asking for a prediction on wins. They're comparing SPFs of their sunscreens. In 2006 in Jackson, there was no air-conditioned inside alternative to beat the heat. Here there is, and the Saints utilized it as soon as the second practice of camp. In 2006, it was about breaking the team down before a rookie coach could build it up. In 2010, it's about not breaking down a team that's coming off a Super Bowl, a team that won't perceive moving inside as a sign of coaching weakness, but coaching compassion and recognition.
This is going to be a tough camp, but certainly each one is different, and you know, I think as you go back to that first camp in 06, maybe there's other goals in mind at your first year.
Peyton now trusts his gut and his gums when it comes to moving practice indoors.
It's when your gum starts melting in your pockets.
A long season looms ahead. Soon enough, the Saints will be jumping from the frying pan of training camp into the fire of the regular season. But as the weather cools, the Saints hope to stay hot because they occasionally chose to avoid the heat rather than combat it, ensuring all Hoodats have a pleasant Christmas vacation. Jim Henderson, 4th Down on 4.
Record-breaking heat today at the Saints practice facility, and relief does not appear to be in sight. Although here's some insider information. Don't ever ask to borrow Jim Henderson's chapstick. Turning up the heat on opposing quarterbacks is the basic philosophy behind any Greg Williams defense. And heading into this season, the Saints defensive coordinator, who chooses to view himself more as a warden than a CEO, has to only replace one player in a defense that ranked second in takeaways just a year ago. Juan Kincaid with a closer look at where this unit has been and where it could go.
Picked off. Look out. We'd seen this before, just not on as big a stage. But Tracy Porter's Super Bowl clinching interception of Peyton Manning just summed up the Saints' historic run to the Vince Lombardi Trophy. In the end, defense really does win championships. Oh, we all know what this offense can and did do last season.
Throwing, intercepted at the goal line.
But it's pretty clear that without Darren Sharper doing this, or Anthony Hargrove pouncing on this, or another Saint doing this, and this, and this, the Saints never would have made it to Miami. So now that we're back in training camp, the trophy and all of those Super Bowl rings are put away in a safe, the proverbial page has been turned. Now what for this defense?
The same defense as last year, just new, maybe a new package, a new set of people on the field, but you know, we do a bunch of different things. So we install it and we'll know, you know, everybody will be on the same page.
There's no telling what that mad scientist has up in his sleeve, you know, and you know, if we happen to put in another defense, that's fine.
The mad scientist, as Harper portrays Williams, doesn't wear a lab coat, and his best work can't be boxed in by four walls. Williams' ideas are put into motion between the white lines. It's where his creative mind comes to life, through numbers on a jersey. 3 days and 5 practices into training camp, and Williams has already applied his stamp.
I think we're obviously only in day 3, you know, day 2.5, if you will, and I think we've already installed like 234 pages of the playbook. So if that gives you an idea of what he's got in his arsenal, you know, take it for what it's worth.
How many ways can you line 11 guys up?
We got that, Coach, but 234 and counting? Remember, we're just 3 days in, and Williams is just getting started. Now, granted, many of the plays or schemes are the same as last season. Same formation, same players, for the most part, and same terminology.
Terminology doesn't change, and I laugh about that too when you guys, when everybody talks about defensive system. This is the same game that it was in junior high.
The greatest defenses in the history of the NFL. Pittsburgh's Steel Curtain, Minnesota's Purple People Eaters, the Saints' Dome Patrol defense. They all had one thing in common. They had what every other NFL team wanted and would do whatever it took to get it.
Every team every year goes into it. They always look at film, and, you know, they always study last year's film, and that's every year. You know, coaches do that, and it's a copycat league.
But as was the case in the past, it's the players that make the difference.
It's not always about the X's and O's. It's about those guys that are in the X's and O's.
I've adapted and had to be flexible each year to the trends of the league, to the new rules in the league, to whatever players that I'm coaching and wherever spot it is.
Which is why neither Williams or his players are concerned about the rest of the NFL trying to do what they do. From day one of camp, Williams has taken the same approach with his players, asking them to focus on what they do best, adamant about putting his players in a position where they can thrive the most.
It's what fits the players, not what I like to do. It's what the players can do the best. And it would be selfish of me to say we have a way that we're going to coach defense or play defense, and this is it, my way or the highway. No, we're going to fit the scheme to you.
Williams will have the benefit of a starting defense that's missing just one piece in strong side linebacker Scott Fujita. But he's been given some new riches in Alex Brown at defensive end and first-round pick Patrick Robinson at cornerback. And he's got some questions that still need to be answered, and will over time. The health of Darren Sharper and how effective he will be once he returns from injury. And how far along has his expected replacement, Malcolm Jenkins, come in such a short time. All of these things will be sorted by Williams and head coach Sean Payton as training camp rolls on. But one thing that hasn't changed, and never will, is what Williams expects from his defense every game, on every down.
We're not going to change for anything, and I don't care who knows it. And, you know, just like Greg says, we're not going to back down. We're not going to be afraid or say that we need to adjust. We're going to make teams adjust to us.
How many ways can you blitz 11 guys? Okay, there's only a certain amount of ways you can do that, and we just got to get better at the fundamentals part of it every single year.
I remember sitting down with Greg Williams 2 Senior Bowls ago, and he talked about for his defense to work, he needs 3 pieces. A good middle linebacker, he has that in Jonathan Velma, a good free safety, obviously Darren Sharper, and a nickel cornerback, and he had that in Randall Gay last year. But now, Scott, he's got even more pieces to make this defense work even more efficiently.
He's got to find, though, a piece at that strong side linebacker. He's been working in guys like Troy Evans, Jolon Dunbar, Who's kind of stuck out the most in your mind? I know he's talked about using that by-committee approach at that position.
Well, the problem is Ingram hasn't even had a chance to get on the field yet, and Greg Williams talked about him a few weeks ago, saying this guy is unbelievable. He's a hitter and has speed, but Jolon Dunbar has been doing most of the work with the first-team defense. So right now, I'd say Jolon Dunbar, it's his job to lose, but look out for Clint Ingram. And Troy Evans has had a fantastic camp so far as well.
Other side of the football, let's look at that backup quarterback position, which everyone will always want to watch. It's kind of that sexy spot. I've always been of the contention that if they ever get to the backup quarterback, that's not a good thing at all. But right now, do you see that as Patrick Ramsey's to lose, or have you seen any of those other two younger quarterbacks make a case?
I think it's Patrick Ramsey's to lose because he's the guy that came in here. He's young, still young, played at Tulane University, has a strong arm, and he has starters experience. So you like that about him, and you can give him some years in the system. But Patrick Ramsey hasn't had the greatest of training camps as of right now. No. I think that the other guys, Sean Canfield, draft pick, has not had a great training camp as well. So I think it's still up for grabs right now. I do think Patrick Ramsey is the odds-on favorite to be the backup to Drew Brees, one because of the experience and has been a starter in this league. But I think there's a real battle going on right now for number 3.
Yeah, and don't forget, he had to knock off some rust because he wasn't with the team for OTAs. All right, get out there, sweat tomorrow. We'll see your reports. Thanks for coming down. We're 3 days into training camp, and what very well could have been day 3 of Pierre Thomas's holdout. The Saints' leading rusher a year ago wants a long-term deal and is negotiating the only way he really knows how, by showing what he can do. On the very first play of training camp, he initiated a collision usually reserved for week 1 of the regular season.
I didn't want to knock my own teammates down. You know, you got a lot of guys talking about that offensive, defensive wise, but you know, you want that little competitiveness, you know, between both of us. But I ain't gonna lie, between me and you, I know Harper gonna get it too, but it felt good.
A lot of issues this offseason as far as you and a contract. You've really taken the high road, something you don't see a lot of times these days. Your decision to do that, your decision to show up here when there's some other guys in similar positions like yours that aren't showing up and aren't sweating like you are.
Well, you know, that was the business side, and with that business side, you know, I was between it a little bit, but I let my agent take over. You know, my whole concentration was just trying to get myself better for the season and, you know, try to figure out what I could do to work on to get better and to help my team get better. So that was my whole focus. My whole focus wasn't about, you know, the whole deal between me and the Saints. You know, I just wanted to make sure I'd be ready to go by when camp started. And I really wanted to come into camp early because I didn't want to come in late. You know, some guys do that, you know, in the contract situation. But me, I want to get myself prepared. I need time, just like anybody else would need time. And I didn't want to be behind. Every year, somebody's out to take their position. So, you know, I didn't want to give nobody room to even get a chance to come and try to take mine. Just like I tell them, if they want to bring somebody in, bring them in, I'm going to beat them out. But I'm still going to do what I have to do to make sure I don't allow that to happen. So, you know, and that was my mindset, is just saying, okay, I got to get in here, you know, because I don't want to have nobody, you know, in front of me. And, you know, I'm not really bust my butt and, you know, get really into shape because these guys already got a couple of days ahead of me, got a foot and step ahead of me, and I have to really try to catch up. So I didn't want to be in that predicament, and I didn't want to be in that position. So that's why I'm here early and, you know, putting my work out there with my teammates.
You want a long-term deal, obviously, though, and how much do you feel when you let yourself think about it, do you deserve it?
Well, you know, I don't think about that. Yes, you do want one. Yes, I do want one. You know, anybody would want one. You know, they want it long-term, but I'm not letting it get to me. I'm doing what I got to do. I said it before. It's in God's hands. You know, my whole life is in His hands. He put me in the right path ever since I started, and I'm just walking it, and that's what I'm going to keep doing. I'm going to walk the path that He paid for me.
Negotiations for Thomas could slow down, though, as the Saints try and perhaps save money for their quarterback's extension, which should be substantial. Here are the numbers of the recent rookie contracts that were signed just this weekend. Top overall pick Sam Bradford inked the richest contract in the history of the NFL, $50 million guaranteed, and he's never even taken a snap in the NFL. Drew Brees, meanwhile, was the 17th highest paid quarterback in the league last season. Also up for contract extensions, 3-time Super Bowl champion Tom Brady and 4-time league MVP Peyton Manning. Cha-ching.